What's up, fellas? I'm not the expert. Welcome back to the Connected Franchise Mode Experiments. So we're just going to clear the air here. The Cleveland Browns, they went 0-16 last season. It's a tragedy. 1-31 in the past two seasons. The fans are in such a depression. They threw a perfect season parade to celebrate their winless record. I feel for the Browns. No one wants to see them lose that many games, so we're going to give the Browns a second chance. In today's video, we're going to use Madden to simulate into the future to see how long it really takes the Cleveland Browns to win a Super Bowl. There's no time restraints on this whatsoever. If it takes 100 years, it takes 100 years. If it takes 1,000 years, it takes 1,000 years. Hopefully this is some sort of release for Browns fans to see them hoisting up the Lombardi trophy and not seeing the pain of 0-16 anymore. And I just want to point out, I'm not controlling any of this whatsoever. It's basically on autopilot, controlled by the CPU. I'm just the one pushing the button to simulate each year through. I decided to leave injuries on because if there's a lot of injuries on your team, you're not going to make it far in the season, and I wanted that to be a factor for the Browns as well. The starting roster for Season 1, the Cleveland Browns, obviously, they're not very good. They went 0-16 in real life, but maybe they'll have some better luck in Madden. The first season was full of surprises. DeShone Kizer was the first one. Solid rookie season for him. 4,000 passing yards. Crowell was a 1,000-yard rusher, and Kenny Britt was a 1,000-yard receiver. Joe Schubert, 67 overall middle linebacker, 137 tackles, led the team, but Myles Garrett is the star of the show for this team. 12.5 sacks, picking up Defensive Rookie of the Year, and as you can see on that list, Jabril Peppers is number 3 behind him. By far the biggest surprise was Trevor Siemian on the 7-9 Broncos winning MVP. Great stats, but on a losing team, very strange to see that in Madden. 2017 Super Bowl winner is the Seattle Seahawks. The Browns finished 5-11, 27th in the league. They did not make playoffs, but certainly better than 0-16. 2018 is a good year for the Cleveland Browns. They decided to upgrade their free safety with the 6th overall pick by selecting Leonard Bassey, an 80 overall superstar, immediately fitting into that starting lineup. However, they did get a bust quarterback in the second round, 60 overall. Very disappointing and a very Browns thing to do in the draft. They also managed to pick up another solid free safety in the 4th round. He will also be a good depth player for them. DeShone Kizer, he had another solid season, 3,400 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Crowell, 1,100 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. Myles Garrett led the defense, winning best defensive lineman in the AFC with 20.5 sacks. Unfortunately, I did not check and see if that was the best in the league. Sorry about that, but just take my word for it. That's a hell of a season. MVP of the season, Aaron Rodgers, over 5,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 69% completion percentage. Super Bowl winner, New England Patriots. The Browns, while they did improve from last season, they had a winning record at 9-7. They did miss out on the playoffs though because the rest of their division was also 9-7. Very tragic. Moving into 2019, they picked up Will Fuller in free agency, and with the 18th overall pick, they select Terrell Sharp, who will be a major force for this team in the upcoming season, so keep an eye on him. In the 7th round, they got a steal of a tight end with B.J. Hale. I'll let you decide if that name is dirty or not. Players improving, of course, DeShone Kizer's up to an 84. Isaiah Crowell is an 89 now. David Njoku is up to a 90. Myles Garrett, 95 overall with 99 power moves, and Jabril Peppers is an 86 overall now. And I just thought this was funny. Blake Bortles is now on the Ravens, and so is LaShawn McCoy. They have all the veterans, it seems like, at all times. Big story from this season, Terrell Sharp wins Defensive Rookie of the Year, led the league in tackles as a rookie. Hell of a season for him. Myles Garrett, another Best Defensive Lineman award for him with 16.5 sacks. Dude continues to kill it. MVP of this season, Dak Prescott on the 12-4 Cowboys with close to 5,000 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Super Bowl winner for this season, Dallas Cowboys. Browns finished 8-8, 14th in the league. They did miss out on playoffs, unfortunately. 2020, it's a new decade. Joe Thomas has just retired. They have the 19th overall pick in this draft, and they select a wide receiver in Bryant Becker, an excellent pick out of Stanford, 82 overall. Once again, they get another bust QB in the 2nd round, however, and they got a solid left guard in the 4th. Some players improving. David Njoku, 93 overall, becoming one of the best tight ends in the league. Myles Garrett, 97 overall, a force to be reckoned with on that defensive line. Terrell Sharp boosting up like crazy, 85 overall. Jabril Peppers continues to increase, 88 overall. Leonard Bassey, the free safety from the first season, 85, and BJ Hale is an 85 as well. DeShone Kizer continues to be forgettable, under 3,000 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. The defense was on point for the Browns though. Terrell Sharp, 134 tackles, 3 interceptions. Myles Garrett was second on the Defensive Player of the Year list behind Melvin Ingram with 91 tackles and 21 sacks. Jamar Taylor was number 2 on the defensive back list behind Adoree Jackson with 82 tackles and 7 interceptions. The most valuable player from this season was Russell Wilson, 4,500 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, which is kind of weird because Big Ben had a much better stat line, I think, with 5,190 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Super Bowl champions of the 2020 season is Seattle Seahawks. Browns finished 9-7, 12th in the league, and they missed out on the playoffs again because their division is so strong. With the 19th pick in this draft, they selected Lorenzo Youngblood, a 79 overall left end with 83 speed and 90 acceleration. DeShone Kizer, a horrendous season, 3,800 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. I just thought this was funny. Duke Johnson is now on the Saints at 90 overall, third in rushing, 1,300 rushing yards, and 13 touchdowns. Terrell Sharp, another great season for him. 159 tackles, leading the league once again. Myles Garrett, 15 sacks on the season, winning best defensive lineman for the second time in his career. For the first time, a randomly generated character wins most valuable player. Akeem Henry of the 12-4 Saints with 4,500 passing yards, 38 touchdowns. But honestly, I think he should have been beaten out by the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Reed Triplett of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had over 5,000 passing yards and 35 touchdowns in his first season. The Super Bowl winner of the 2021 season, the Atlanta Falcons. Browns finished 5-9-2, 23rd in the league. They finished 3rd in their division despite winning less games than the Bengals thanks to those 2 tied games. Moving into 2022, the 10th overall pick, they select DeMarcus Mahalona, a 76 overall superstar wide receiver who is 6'6", 93 jumping, and 92 spectacular catch. Total beast in that guy. They also got a decent corner in the second round, but he does have slow development. Several guys started to improve on the team, like Lorenzo Youngblood, David Njoku still up there. Myles Garrett is honestly one of the best in the league. It was an atrocious season on both sides of the ball for this team. The offense, oh my goodness, DeShone Kizer, more interceptions than touchdowns. Even Chad Kelly had some reps, he was doing so poorly. Terrell Sharp continues to be one of the most consistent players on this team. Myles Garrett, he suffered injuries all year. It was kind of an off year for him. He only had 9 sacks. The most valuable player for this season was Russell Wilson. His team went 8-8, and there was a lot of other quarterbacks with better stats, so I'm not really sure how he managed to grab that MVP award. The Super Bowl winner for this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, Mike Tomlin retired after that game, just to give you an idea of how far we've simulated into the future. The Browns finished 3-13, 31st in the league. It is their worst season yet, and several players downgraded because of low confidence. 2023 is the start of the rebuilding years. The Raiders relocated to the now Chicago Tigers. The Browns had the 2nd overall pick, and they selected a superstar left tackle in Vinny Ornstein, who is a very good player at 82 overall. Some positives for this team: the O-line is about 80 overall across the board, and the cornerback Justice Walker is starting to improve at 81 overall, and Terrell Sharp now has superstar development because he's gotten so many awards over the years. He's an 89 overall. I'm starting to realize the Browns will not get anywhere until they actually have a quarterback. DeShone Kizer, he is a lost cause at this point. 19 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and Chad Kelly still making a case for him as his backup. Because the quarterback was so poor, the wide receivers were terrible as well. Not a single 1,000-yard receiver for many years running. Isaiah Crowell is consistent at about 1,000 yards every season. Myles Garrett, 16.5 sacks, and for the 3rd time in his career, best defensive lineman. The MVP of this season, Akeem Henry of the 10-6 Saints. The Super Bowl winner of the 2023 season, the Arizona Cardinals. Browns went 5-11, 30th in the NFL. While it is an improvement, it's not an improvement by much. The first big news of 2024 is the Cleveland Browns signed Blake Bortles. Probably their best draft so far. With the 3rd overall pick, they selected an 80 overall running back in Curry Ruff. Very strange name. He's very slow, but he's a solid power back. They got a speedy wide receiver in the 2nd round and a good right outside linebacker in the 6th. And in the 7th round, they had an 83 overall fullback. Their left tackle and former 2nd overall pick is now an 86 overall. Myles Garrett is a 99 overall, and David Njoku is a 95. I'm sure injuries played a factor for both of these quarterbacks. Blake Bortles led the team with 1,800 passing yards. Curry Ruff, good season for him, number 2 on the Offensive Rookie of the Year with 976 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. And Myles Garrett, for the 4th time in his career, best defensive lineman of the AFC with 13.5 sacks and 97 tackles. Most valuable player of this season was Ryan Bartholomew of the 11-5 Cardinals, 4,800 passing yards and 35 touchdowns. Super Bowl winner of the 2024 season is the Los Angeles Chargers. Browns went 3-12-1. 31st team ranked in the NFL in another disappointing season. 2025, no more Blake Bortles. Number 2 overall pick, they selected an 80 overall cornerback with slow development. 2nd round, they got a right guard, 79 overall with quick development. Deshaun Kaiser still trashed, out with injuries all year. And their backup quarterback, who's only a 66 overall, tried to lead the team, and he did not do so well. Curry Ruff, his first time getting 1,000 rushing yard season. He also got 7 touchdowns. Myles Garrett had his worst season so far, only 5.5 sacks. Their rookie cornerback won Defensive Rookie of the Year with 100 tackles and 1 interception. The most valuable player this season was Gifford Anderson of the 10-6 Jaguars, 5,000 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. The Super Bowl winner of the 2025 season, the Washington Redskins.
Boo, you suck!
When it seemed like there was no hope left for this Browns team, 2026 is the year they finally made a good decision. Finally, at long last, they drafted a quarterback, and not a bust quarterback in the 2nd round, an 87 overall superstar beast in Beckett Knox out of Ole Miss. The wide receivers are improving, the center, tight end, and defense are still declining, especially the safeties. No surprise here, Beckett Knox wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, 3,800 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Very solid for him. Defense was plagued with injuries. Myles Garrett only had 9 sacks. Terrell Sharp only had 84 tackles. The MVP of this season was Allen Simpson of the 11-5 Rams, 4,000 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. For the first time in this simulation, the Browns made the playoffs at 11-5. It's an insane boost and easily their best record so far. Super Bowl winner of the 2026 season was the Arizona Cardinals. The Browns were blown out in the wildcard round 52-14 by the Buffalo Bills. With the 23rd pick in 2027, they selected Eddie Go Lucky, which turned out to be a pretty lucky pick. 80 overall, quick development, free safety, and the rest of the draft was pretty meh. Beckett Knox is now a 91 overall, Curry Ruff 82, and the defense continues to improve in most areas. I thought Beckett Knox was going to have a better season than he did. He had 3,700 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Curry Ruff continues to impress, 1,100 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. Terrell Sharp and Myles Garrett are back on their game. Terrell Sharp over 130 tackles, and Myles Garrett 18.5 sacks, picking up another Best Defensive Lineman award. Most valuable player, Dak Prescott on the 9-4-3 Dallas Cowboys. Not really sure how you tie 3 times, but okay. As you can see, his stats are pretty good at over 4,000 passing yards, but I think Andrew Luck actually had a better season with over 5,000 passing yards. The Browns finished 8-8. They missed out on the playoffs at 17th in the NFL. And the Super Bowl winner, the Detroit Lions. At this point, at over 3.5 hours of recording into this, I started to lose hope. I did not think the Browns would ever pull it off. I started to read a lot less stats, so from here on out, I'm only going to read like the MVP and the Super Bowl winner, just the really big important stats. Moving on into the 2028 season and our 12th season overall, the Jets relocated to Sacramento. They are now known as the Redwoods. In the NFL draft at 16th overall, they selected an 80 overall cornerback, Ibrahim Savoy, and in the 4th round, they got a superstar right guard as well. The MVP of the season was Rashawn Paul, 11-5 on the Ravens, 4,600 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, and 20 interceptions. That's a lot of interceptions there. The Browns finished 5-11, 30th in the NFL. Of course, they missed out on playoffs, and the Super Bowl winner was the Dallas Cowboys again. 2029 season 13, they signed Danielle Hunter. They selected an 81 overall superstar strong safety. The MVP of the season was Deshaun Watson of the 11-5 Texans, 5,000 passing yards, 48 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Terrell Sharp took home the Defensive Player of the Year award. The Browns did make the playoffs for the second time in this simulation at 10-6-0, finished 8th in the NFL. In the wild card round, they faced off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they defeated them, winning their first playoff game in who knows how long. In the divisional round, they defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in the conference championship, they went on to beat the Los Angeles Chargers. So yes, they did make the Super Bowl for the first time in this simulation, but it's not over yet. They have to actually win this game for it to be officially done. In the most unrealistic Super Bowl you'll probably ever see, the defending champion Detroit Lions are facing off against the first time in the Super Bowl, Cleveland Browns. I'll keep it simple for you guys. The Browns are down by 3 points. With 5 minutes left, they kick a field goal to tie the game. The Lions are driving down the field. They're on the 14-yard line, and with under 3 minutes left, they turn the ball over. The Browns now have it with 2 minutes 40 seconds left, and they're starting to drive themselves. They only get up to the 48-yard line. But what happens after this is incredible. The punt of this kid's lifetime downs it inside the 1-yard line with under 2 minutes to go in the game. The next play is the biggest play in Browns history as Myles Garrett tackles the Detroit Lions running back in the end zone for a safety, putting them ahead 19-17 with under 2 minutes to go. And after that, it's smooth sailing for them. They run the clock out, and now they are officially crowned Super Bowl champions. Seriously, one of the craziest things I've ever seen, winning a Super Bowl off of a safety. The man who got the game-winning safety, Myles Garrett, takes home Super Bowl MVP, and the Browns, in 2029, 13 seasons in, are officially Super Bowl champions. Game-winning safety from Myles Garrett. Storybook ending for the Cleveland Browns. Truly one of the greats. Myles Garrett, going into his 14th season, has the highest legacy score out of all right ends in the game. And to celebrate his Super Bowl victory, he went and signed with the Redskins.
Nope.
The team ended with an 84 overall team, 87 offense, 89 defense. Woo! Cleveland Browns are Super Bowl champions. In a video game, not real life. Not real life. Every quarterback. We have everyone from Brady to dang butt fumble on this team, guys. See, we have Brady at the top. We sort down all the way down to the lowest rated guy at 56 overall. I'm scrolling through every other team in the league right now. No one else in the league